Hey everyone, this is the acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to take a look at this week's lunar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. Now, this eclipse happens technically tomorrow, but we're going to take a look at it today because for most people, you're going to be in the thick of it tomorrow, potentially by the time you hear a video on it. So I figured we might as well do it a day in advance. In the meantime, I want to welcome you all to my new office space. It's not set up yet, but my desk is set up. So. Yeah, welcome. It'll be getting more and more into the shape that I want it to be in the weeks ahead. I don't have my plants here yet. I don't have any of my like decor. My books are still kind of being unpacked little by little. The funny thing about trying to build an office during this whole pandemic thing is that the supply chain has been completely bonkers. So whether it's been, like ordering my new equipment, or it's been like getting a couch or like some bookshelves or like whatever. It's literally been like delay after delay after delay, which has kind of been nice because it's given me time to like slowly unpack and organize my things. But anyway, I'm rambling. Thank you, all of you, for being patient as I was sitting for quite some time in just like an empty kitchen. So little by little, this place will get into shape. Yeah, I went with a new color. If you guys followed my last office back in Maryland, I had like a really awesome Krishna blue. I was really feeling purple in this space. Purple and blue are two of my favorite colors. Purple's probably my favorite color of all time. So Minnesota, Prince, the Vikings, actually weren't, you would think they would have had a big influence on me because I come back to Minnesota, but actually I just love purple. So welcome to my purple office. So as usual, you guys know that I'm in the middle of promoting my upcoming program, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. We have more and more enrollments coming in every day now. I'm really excited about it. Let's take a look at my website, nightlightastrology.com. If you go to the courses page, click on the first year course. And if you scroll down, you can learn all about what our program includes. And it's about 100 hours worth of course content. You can take it remotely or live. There are live webinars, but a lot of people tune in from Australia or Africa or different places in Asia. It's literally people attend from all over the world. So if you need to follow along remotely, everything's recorded for you. Everything is available online. And we also have breakout study sessions after each module. We have optional homework and reading assignments, and we point you to really good content on the web that's free if you want to find some bonus material. We also have bonus lectures that I provide throughout the course. And there's a number of different ways you can pay. If you sign up before the start of class on June 13th, you can save $500 off with an early bird payment. There's a payment plan. There's also tuition assistance for people who might need a little help. So check that out and see if you qualify. If you have any questions at all about the program, feel free to email me, info@nightlightastrology.com. Myself and my personal assistant, Delia, are glad to help you with any of your questions about the program. There's two books that we generally recommend, and there's a variety of different software programs. We recommend a number of software programs are free on the web. Some people ask, like, do I need to purchase a software program? Ideally at some point you'll have a software program, but a lot of our students, at least in the beginning, will start with one of the free programs online and then maybe get one later. Anyway, so hope to see some of you in class soon. All right, well, let's take a look at this lunar eclipse. Now, the basic way that I define a lunar eclipse is like a mega full moon, and a solar eclipse is going to be like a mega new moon, in the sense that every new moon is planting a seed. It's a little mini microcosmic picture of the solar year. The moon goes through all 12 signs of the zodiac in the same time that it takes the sun to go all the way around the zodiac. So we get a little year encapsulated within a lunar cycle, and a lot happens within a lunar cycle if you are tracking the movements. One of the best things I ever did as an astrologer in my first 2 years of practicing was I kept a lunar journal. So I would track every day throughout a cycle, and I did that for a few years, and it really taught me to appreciate the ebb and flow of each lunar cycle. Every lunar dynamic is different, and so knowing where this cycle is heading, both from the get-go at the new moon and then seeing where we've come by the time of a full moon, can really, just tracking it and being aware of it can be really important. But we know that a new moon is very powerful because it plants a seed. It's like a new beginning. the full moon, the lunar eclipse that we're talking about today, is going to be about the manifestation of the intentions and the energies that were planted at the new moon. Most of you guys know this, so I'm probably preaching to the choir, but it's important to mention this because when you have a solar eclipse, we have one coming up on June 10th in Gemini, it's like a massive new beginning. It's a seed that's getting planted, the beginning of which is not just your normal cycle, but the starting point of a greater cycle. Remember, eclipse cycles themselves last about 18 years. And then we have every 9 years, the nodes return to the same places that they were, but in reversed order. So today what I want to do is take us back in time a little bit with these eclipses and then run them through the 12 houses. So first of all, one of the things to take a look at is the fact that this lunar eclipse, I'll just push it through to tomorrow so we can see it first of all. So this has been one of those eclipses that I feel like I've forecasted for, at this point, probably a couple of hundred people this year. And you can see there's our sun-moon dynamic. And actually, let me make my lines a little thicker here. I'm just using my new computer for the first time. So, okay, here we go. So we have, it's landing at about 5 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, that next eclipse on June 10th will be happening in Gemini. So the eclipses always follow one another. They're like wave sets coming in for surfers. Every day there's waves coming in and out, but then sometimes you get those really ideal, big waves that are there for surfing. I think you can compare eclipses to the same thing. When eclipses come through, they're like major wave sets in the dynamic of our year. And when they come through back to back to back like that, this is usually when, for example, my videos during this time of the year usually spike. There's usually the most viewership of any of the videos that I'm doing, not just the eclipse videos, but say 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after eclipses. There tends to be a lot more traffic on astrological postings on social media. I mean, that's something I've observed with a number of my colleagues. I don't have any statistics on that, but I've certainly noticed it. So it's something to pay attention to. And the difference between the new moon and the full moon is that the full moon is going to be about those energies that were planted around the new moon manifesting or blossoming. Well, typically that's contained within one lunar cycle, but when you have eclipses, you're talking about something culminating that has quite a history behind it. Of course, like an 18-year history on some level, or even a 9-year history if you go back to the last time that the nodes of the moon were in Gemini and Sagittarius. So there's a lot of history behind these eclipses. That's the main point. So today what we want to do is, first I want to take you back to the last time that the nodes of the moon were in Gemini and Sagittarius, so that you just have a sense of when was the last time that you encountered these same eclipses. Sorry about that. I somehow accidentally clicked the pause button. So when was the last time that you had these eclipses, and where were they in your chart back then? Where are they now? I'll help you with the exercise. I'll give you an example of an exercise that I do with eclipses every time they roll through, and maybe it'll be helpful for you as well. Anyway, so let's go back in time just a little bit. And I apologize, I'm just still getting to know my setup of my new computer, and Zoom also did this weird update. I have to say I'm not a big fan of the update they just did. But anyway, okay, so we're going back in time. So 9 years ago, the nodes of the moon were also in the signs of Sagittarius and Gemini. So you can certainly go back to this time around 2012. You can go back to 2011. So you go back to 2011 and 12, and those were the last years during which we had our Gemini and Sagittarius eclipses. What was happening in your life around that time? Really good to pay attention to that. This would have been, roughly the spring of 2011 all the way through the spring of 2012, or thereabouts, especially in the months of May and June, and then say November, December, right around there where you're in Sagittarius and Gemini season. That's when we would have had our eclipses. But we can go back even further to the beginning of the 18-year cycle, and this is when the nodes of the moon would have been last in the exact same places, meaning the North Node was in Gemini and the South Node was in Sagittarius. Every 9 years, they're going to flip so that we'll have the same eclipses, but they'll be in reverse order. So 9 years ago, when you had that 2011-12, we would have had the South Node in Gemini and the North Node in Sagittarius. So let's just take a look at, so the nodes of the moon transitioned about the fall of 2001. So the fall of 2001, they start moving through the signs of Gemini and Sagittarius again, and they would have gone all the way into, this is obviously by the spring of 2002 that they're there. And in particular, the eclipse that I think is probably most similar to the one we're experiencing would have been about May, let's see, make sure I get it. It would have been about May 26th, 2002. So if you can go back to what was happening in your life around the end of May 2002, you'll be pretty close to where we are now. So, okay, we're going to, I'm going to bring it up to the present. I'm going to show you, you know, we're going to run through all of the signs, but first I'm going to show you an exercise that I recommend doing. So I'm going to put my own chart, well, the outline of my own chart, which is Taurus rising. So I'm going to put Taurus on the ascendant right now and show you an exercise that you can do to get a lot out of the eclipse. So you go back to the end of May 2002. You could think back even to the previous spring of 2001 and like, oh, what was happening? So for me, those eclipses, the Sagittarius eclipses, were happening in the 8th house. I also had Gemini eclipses happening in my 2nd house. So this is what's so interesting about this. You know, you can correlate the eclipses that were happening under the previous cycles to the same topics in the same houses that you're likely to see reactivated now. So for example, around May 25th, back in 2002, when that eclipse came through, here's what was happening in my life. So this is 8th house for me. So 8th house, among other things, which I'll go over when we go through all 12 signs, can mean, say, death or endings, debts, entanglements with other people, things that people owe you, things that you owe other people. So here's what happened around that time for me. One, I was let go from a job. This is the only job in my life that I've ever been let go from. But I was let go from a job mostly because I very intentionally was not, like, I was very well aware of the fact that I was not giving it the attention that it needed. I was late. I wasn't, like, I was almost ready for summer break. I was finishing school. I was in college, and I was super slacking at my job, and they were getting ready to take employees into the summer because it was anyway. So they decided to not keep me on. And so I lost a job. I got out of a long-term relationship at that point in time. And I had a roommate break up with me. I had a roommate who got a girlfriend and decided, rather than living together over the summer, that he was going to go and be with his new girlfriend all summer. So I was suddenly without a job, without a girlfriend, and without a roommate. And that all happened right at once, at the same time that I also decided to stop participating in, I'm just going to call it a group that I was a part of. So it was a moment of a lot of endings, which is par for the course with the 8th house. But what was really interesting was that summer, because those, let's call them karmic contracts, had resolved themselves because they were basically over, you know, I was ready to take on some new things. And those new things ended up being really fantastic. I ended up having a very good summer in some ways because those things that had reached their expiration date had cleared space for me to have a better summer. So I always remember that time at the first, you know, the outset of it, feeling like, man, I'm getting smacked around here. I didn't have like a concept quite at that point for astrology or, like, you know, even the universe, but it was this feeling of like something cosmic is going on here, you know? But anyway, so now the resolution of karmic contracts some of those things, I was actually in the moment. They weren't even so painful. Like I was actually relieved to not have the job. I ended up finding a new roommate for the summer, which ended up being really cool because the job cleared out. I ended up finding another job that ended up being like my first sort of real job out of college. So it was a time where I kind of knew, that things were ready to go. So if you're a Taurus rising and you've got Sag in the 8th, if things are ready to go, debts are ready to be resolved, karmic contracts are ready to be completed. Remember that the full moon, the lunar eclipse, tends to bring things to resolution and completion. It tends to bring about endings or finality or climax, or it's like a culmination of previous events, and then there's the blossom. Okay, now you get to see the fruit of previous actions. It all leads up to this. And in a double-bodied sign like Sagittarius, sometimes there's going to be a lot of them, and sometimes you're going to see multiple different resolutions completing themselves. The nice thing about this Sagittarius eclipse is that it's ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter in the sign of Pisces, a very strong, double-bodied water sign. Jupiter is one of Jupiter's home signs. So the idea of this culmination, bringing some kind of resolution, completion, closure, bringing a sense of fulfillment, and probably bringing some kinds of benefits, even if there is a little bit of a letting go or a sense of finality, because Jupiter is so strongly positioned at the moment. So I'm not too worried about this eclipse. As I said yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video, I'm a little bit more worried about Mars heading into an opposition with Pluto. That in the middle of these two eclipses, I feel like could intensify the dynamics of the eclipses, and we almost need to compartmentalize them a little bit, which hopefully we'll be doing in the week ahead, as we will also take the Mars-Pluto dynamic and look at it through all the 12 signs. Anyway, so that's my own personal story. Now, the reason I shared that with you guys is so that you can go back to, say, the spring of 2002, or from the spring of 2001 through, say, the end of 2002, and go, like, what was going on in my life? Look at the whole sign house that we're going to go over right now in your chart and compare notes. That will sometimes give you just a familiarity. Like, I know the weather. I'm familiar with this kind of karma that's coming up right now. And, that on its own can be really relieving to just know, like, this is a natural rhythm. I've been here before. I've been okay before. I've made it through. So, hopefully that helps. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through all 12 signs on the ascendant. And we're going to start with Aries. So and I'm going to do these pretty quick, but if you're in Aries, this south node is in your 9th house. So the eclipse is forming, let's just put this, I'm going to put it forward a day. Here we go. So the eclipse is forming in your 9th house. So you're thinking about resolution, culmination, completion, the fruit of previous actions coming to show itself or reveal itself in the place of religion, higher education, higher learning, the pursuit of truth. We're looking at a place associated with the law, our beliefs, our guiding beliefs and principles. So something is culminating there for you right now if you're in Aries. And I would think of this as a really a positive, a sign of growth, a sign where, it's like sometimes our experiences gradually lead us to natural conclusions about the world, about God, about the soul, about, something ethical, or we don't always know how to make the right decisions, or we don't always know the right path to take. And when a lunar eclipse comes through your 9th house, sometimes the guiding principles or beliefs or the experience just leads you to the natural knowledge or understanding that you need to go forward. All right, let's put Taurus on the ascendant. So, whoops. We just did that one, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you think about karmic contracts with other people that are kind of completing themselves right now. And, again, for me, that in the past, there has been some pain or hardship around that, but also the clearing of debts. And that's been a really positive thing that makes room for new growth. So I really, really feel very positive about the 8th house, even though sometimes there is that sense of, it's a little ominous, the 8th house. So I'd love to hear your stories from other Taurus risings out there, how it goes for you. So we put Gemini in the ascendant, and there's culmination coming into the house of relationships. marriage, sexuality, and relationships. Usually that's going to mean something in a relationship is coming to fruition, or something for a partner is coming to fruition, either way. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to put Cancer on the ascendant. This takes it into your 6th house. Look for health, look for the health of family members, look for different kinds of more intense emotional conflicts, especially with Mars right now and its fall in your 1st house. Look for there to be a sense of, dealing with, but again, I would say for Cancers, with Mars being in your 1st house, and 6th house was traditionally called the joy of Mars, that there's a Moon Mars theme in the air for you right now. If you're a Cancer, this eclipse could bring different kinds of emotional hardship or some challenges around your living environment or health or body or family, things like that. So this is, but the nice thing is that there can be, if there's resolution around conflicts or challenges or health problems that come out of it, if there's understanding, if there's some healing available, that can certainly come out of the 6th house, but usually because you're encountering some kind of frustration or difficulty in a more vulnerable place. Okay, so let's go forward with Leo rising. If you're a Leo rising, this is going to fall in your 5th house, place of creativity, children, joy, sometimes connected to romance, the arts. I love this in terms of there being some kind of creative process that's coming to fruition. Sometimes you'll see people having a baby or getting pregnant even, or there's going to be really dramatic, important turning points in the lives of your children. Sometimes you're going to see people get sober, or, especially Sagittarius, looking or reviewing or sort of revising your relationship with pleasure. The 5th house is so much about pleasure, what brings us joy. And sometimes we have the right things in our life. Sometimes we have no things in our life that bring us joy. And sometimes we have the wrong things. So an evaluation around joy, happiness, creativity. So watch for that in the weeks ahead. Remember, an eclipse doesn't happen all at once. The eclipse date is a marker in time. Typically, you're going to see it play out over the next couple of weeks after that. Okay, so let's move forward to Virgo on the ascendant. So Virgo on the ascendant, it's going to be in your 4th house, which is the place of home and family, property, land, living environment, your roots, your ancestry, ancestral karma. So, I like this eclipse for bringing completion, culmination, resolution into the house of home and family. Remember that the ruler Jupiter is in the 7th, so the overlap between love, marriage, relationships, and home and family would be quite strong for Virgos right now. And there's some deeper letting go or resolution. Like, it would not be surprising for me to see, ailing or sick or older family members passing with a lunar eclipse in the 4th house. But also, things like, hey, look, we sold our house, or we're moving, or something like that, where some period of a longer period is coming to completion around the most intimate living space in your life. All right, so let's go forward to Libra rising. This takes the eclipse and puts it into your 3rd house. And the 3rd house eclipse in the house of siblings wouldn't be uncommon to see major turning points in the lives of siblings. They're getting married, they're having kids, they're going to move, and they're going to be closer to you. There's healing in your relationship with siblings. So anything involving siblings could peak around this time. But also, generally speaking, I like this as a moment of changing your mind, or of coming to the logical limits of some particular point of view. Sagittarius in the 3rd, a Jupiter ruled sign, can have a lot to do with our understanding of things. And it's kind of like a paradigm shift mentally or intellectually, a deeper understanding of how you communicate, a need for more positivity, looking at the difference between careful scrutiny, criticism, the critical mental mind, and the place in you that needs faith, hope, trust, belief, optimism. Also, I like this as a time of exploring or examining beliefs with a more thoughtful or critical point of view if you haven't had one for a while. So I like this as a kind of a shift in mental or intellectual paradigm. Also, the need to communicate yourself, or to put beliefs into action somehow for Librans. So let's go forward. We'll put Scorpio on the ascendant. If you're a Scorpio rising, then this falls into your second whole sign house, which is going to be the place of money, resources. I love this as an eclipse that could clear debts or make healthy new investments. That could mean the selling of something, or could mean important purchases. But also, because the South Node and the lunar eclipse together have this feeling of almost otherworldliness, I like giving to charities, or a spiritualization of your relationship to money, or some way of becoming more conscious through your relationship with money or business. Perhaps it's the end of some particular business endeavor or project that you've been working on. You're going to see the results of it now. So I like this. For example, I have a family member, Scorpio rising, who is getting ready to buy a house. So this will be like the culmination of a long process of searching for a home, and now purchasing one. So let's see here. Let's go to Sagittarius rising. If it's in your first house, if you're a Sag rising, this is going to be an eclipse that really focuses on your mind, your body, your sense of self, your appearance, your physical vitality. So health, body, appearance, psychology, your sense of identity, and at a core level, something is reaching completion. I see this happen when people are realizing that they've hit the end of, they've reached the end of their rope when it comes to, my health, my appearance, my diet. So really good eclipse for changing something about your physical health or your body, especially if it's something that has been unhealthy, you've been living with for a long time. This is also a good one with Jupiter, the ruling planet, your ruling planet, in the fourth house of home and family, for there to be identity or physical changes in some way related to home and family simultaneously. I'm changing because I'm moving. I'm going through an identity change, and I realize I need to move out, or I need to move in with someone, or whatever the case might be. There could be some tie-in with home and family or living environment and critical identity changes. So watch for those two areas to be connected. This is also a time where, for Sagittarians, I feel like the potential for health, be careful of your health a little bit, and the connection between health, home, and family. There could be, usually lunar eclipses in the first house can be a little bit hard on the body. That's why I'm mentioning this. And then when they tie in through Jupiter in the fourth, you could be looking at like hereditary things, or, kind of when there's karma that's blossoming simultaneously between you, your own body, mind, state, and then people in the family. Like, be careful that you don't take on the stress of family members that could manifest in your body and health. So just a few warnings there on the health side of things. Typically, I don't see anything like horrible, but it is one of the, eclipses in your first house can be a little bit hard on vitality. All right, anyway, let's go to Capricorn rising. We're putting this in your 12th house. So here I would say looking at destructive beliefs or limiting ideas, anything that has been leading you astray, that is just, it's time to get rid of or let go of. I can't tell you how many times I've seen eclipses in the 12th house when people start going to AA. I can't tell you how many times I've seen, eclipses in the 12th house when there's a bit of a, what do I want to say, like a contemplative move. Someone decides they need to go on a retreat. They start prayer or meditation. There's some need to get themselves back on track after a long period of feeling off track. Now, this is par for the course with a Jupiter-ruled sign in the 12th house, a place that was often associated with those spirits or energies or themes within ourselves or outside of ourselves that could kind of take us off track. So I like this as an eclipse that can help you get back on track in whatever area you feel like you've been off track if you're a Capricorn rising. If we're going forward to Aquarius rising, we're placing this in your 11th house, place of friends and allies, groups of people, anyone or anything that serves as an asset or resource for your ambitions, usually professionally. So this will sometimes mean that there are culminating experiences around groups of people, allies, colleagues, organizations that you work within, or social dynamics in your life are changing. What's interesting here is that with Jupiter, the ruling planet, in your second house, there could be simultaneous changes around money or finances. So I like this as like joining a new group or organization, or potentially, finding some kind of lucrative situation financially that comes through an ally or a colleague or networking somehow. So I like this as a very positive potential around your social connections and how they might actually benefit you financially as one of the most positives for Aquarius risings. But also, if there's some social connections, groups, and so forth that have kind of reached their culmination and it's time to let go of them, don't be afraid of that. Saturn's in your first house as an Aquarius right now. There's a lot of change in identity that's going to be happening while Saturn's in your first house all the way until 2023. Some of that's going to be social for you. You're a very social creature as an Aquarian, but the groups that you participate in, you can be very particular about. So maybe there's some change happening there socially for you right now that's necessary, even if it is a little disorienting for a while. Okay, last but not least, we're going to put Pisces on the ascendant. And then this culminating eclipse moment is happening in your career house. Now, I often see that happening when a person is changing jobs, management is changing, they're completing a project, they're gaining recognition, they're getting a promotion, because any kind of culminating event in that house, in a Jupiter-ruled sign, when Jupiter, your ruling planet, is in your first house, will typically give you opportunities for gain, promotion. It will initiate new periods or eras in your career that are very positive, generally speaking, when there's a good, like you've got an eclipse in your 10th and the ruler's in your first. And especially when it's a benefic like Venus or Jupiter, that's a really very powerfully and positive eclipse. Can't really talk today. Sorry, guys. Okay. Anyway, so that's what I'm looking at for all 12 signs. Now, remember, you want to take these signs back. You want to take them all the way back to 2001 spring, all the way through 2002. That's how you're going to get the most out of this in terms of doing a comparative exercise. You could go back to 2011 and 2012 to compare nodes, but remember the nodes were flipped at that time. We had the North node in Sagittarius and South in the South node in Gemini. So, actually, I'll just show you. This is kind of interesting. So, if I go back to in my own chart, if I just go back to 2011 and 2012, and I'm going to put Taurus back on the ascendant, I'll share one more story with you guys. Hopefully, this kind of primes the pump and helps you to keep doing this biographical exercise. So, these were North node eclipses in my 8th house in 2011 and in 2012. So at that time, my wife and I were forming a business together, and I was letting go of previous business partnerings that I had in New York City. So the North node, oftentimes more ambitious. The South node a little bit more it has more to do with letting go of things. So you can see the South node was in my 2nd, and I was letting go of being an independent business owner. And around that time, with the North node in the 8th, was joining my business with my wife's business, and we were opening a yoga studio together. Which today, most people, my business, Nightlight Astrology, is a part of our LLC called Sky House Yoga, which was herbs, yoga, and astrology sort of all at once. So anyway, those eclipses were their same houses, but rather than clearing debts, there was more of the idea of taking on new bonds. So, that's what was happening under my last eclipses. So you can compare them to a little bit like that, and it can be really useful. Anyway, this is what I've got today. Thanks for being patient with me as I stumble along with all of my new equipment. And it's hard. It's a little bit hard for me to stay in a flow when I'm just feeling like, okay, where's my mic? And I don't have my sound in the room quite perfect yet, and my camera angles, and just all that kind of stuff. So bear with me over the next couple of weeks, probably about a month before I really get like everything in this room. And as you guys know, who do sound, when you have a little bit more in the room, you get a little less of that roomy echo too. So anyway, I'm excited to be here. I hope you like my Prince purple room. And I hope you guys have a great day. Have a safe eclipse. Don't buy into superstitious hype. live your best life. You'll be awesome. Everything will be fine. We'll be together again tomorrow. We'll probably talk a little bit more about the eclipse in light of the upcoming Mars-Pluto dynamic and some other things going on. Kat's also coming back soon. We're going to do some Q&A. She's been very graciously sort of waiting. I've got like a list of like 20 Q&A episodes that we have to do because I've been moving. It's just been really hard to get anything done. So she's coming back as well. So we'll be doing some Q&A episodes soon. And like I said, don't forget my course coming up on June 13th. Plenty of time to register. Check it out on nightlightastrology.com. Any questions you have, info@nightlightastrology.com. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.